Hey folks, it's Matt once again, and welcome back to another review, this time on a film from the 90s called Internal Affairs, which I had never seen before, but gave this a watch. It stars Richard Gere, Andy Garcia. You also have Nancy Travis, who's been in 3 Men and a Baby, So I Married an Axe Murderer, among others. You have William Baldwin. Elijah Wood is in it for 2 seconds, when he's still just a young kid. And it's directed by the guy who did Leaving Las Vegas, which honestly I still have yet to see. A guy named Mike Figgis, if I got his name right. And this was a pretty good, can't really call it an action film, it's more of a cop suspense, maybe a little bit of a thriller, where Andy Garcia works for Internal Affairs. And at first he's looking into this cop who has a drug problem. One of the first things you see is him beating up on his wife. And this cop is played by William Baldwin. But then that leads into the main threat to the film, Richard Gere. And Richard Gere does a really good job as this very, in a way, charming. He's a guy who can talk people into doing what he wants, can push buttons to get them to react how he wants them to react. And I like Richard Gere. I like him in the Mothman Prophecies. He's an actor that I've seen in films. I thought, he's pretty good. There was another one, God, I forget the name of it. I think he's going out after a rapist or a child killer. I can't remember the name of it. But I remember him being really good in the film. And he's a very capable actor. Andy Garcia, I think he's fine as an actor. I mean, he was in The Untouchables. He did well in that, as same here. He did one called Desperate Measures with Michael Keaton, and Andy Garcia wasn't bad. It's just in that film Michael Keaton kind of blew him out of the water. But here I thought he held his own, and I think that's because you could really feel the tension. And from what I understand, these two guys hated each other. From the info I could find, these guys hated each other's guts and just despised each other, to the fact of the ending of the film, which you could tell is different because you watch the trailer and there's stuff in the trailer like Andy Garcia pushing Richard Gere out the window and they're both falling. That was part of the original ending, and that got reshot. I guess test audience didn't like something about it. And from what I understand, it got to a point where they only shot with doubles. So Richard Gere and Andy Garcia didn't want to be in the same room together. And there's some story that Andy Garcia didn't even go to the rap party. So yeah, you're not going to get him to talk about this movie. But this movie was well received by critics. I could see why. Goes at a decent enough pace. Just found the film interesting to see what was going to happen next. That it's not overblown. It's not. If you're going into this for action, you're not going to get that because you're not getting car chases. You're not getting a lot of shootouts or fisticuffs. It's more of Andy Garcia's character being obsessed with trying to catch Richard Gere's character. Andy Garcia is with Nancy Travis, and he's a little bit paranoid, and Richard Gere uses that to his advantage to make it seem like Nancy Travis is with him behind Andy Garcia's back to just fuck with Andy Garcia's head. At the same time, we're witnessing what Richard Gere, how cold-blooded he is, what he's willing to go to fuck over people like William Baldwin's character, among others. Laurie Metcalf, who was on the TV show Roseanne, she was in Scream 2. She's here as the partner of Andy Garcia. And I liked her as an actress. I think she did perfectly fine here. The score, This what struck me about the film watching for the first time is the score at the very beginning and ending of the film is much like a horror film. It's like something out of Stephen King's Graveyard Shift. Like when I watched the opening of that film, it almost has a very low key, but not silly as I'm making it sound, but very creepy, low key, like out of a horror film. And I'm like, well, okay, it's kind of a decent atmosphere you're developing with that kind of score to start and end your film with. And the ending of the film is definitely very low key. It's just, I don't know if I should give it away for folks, but nothing explosive, nothing too combative. I guess it's more of sort of a almost a stare down, really. But I thought it fit the film for what it was trying to go, for what it was trying to tell with its story. And you do get a really evil Richard Gere, but not hammy evil, not ridiculous evil, not over the top evil, but a little bit of cunning in there. You know, he's the type of guy who will be talking to someone who offers him, hey, I want you to kill my mom and my dad for this little thing here. And Richard Gere will be listening to him and will be fondling the guy's wife's legs under the table while he's talking to the guy. That's how much of a creep he is. And then the guy asks him, can I trust you? And Richard Gere goes, of course you can trust me. I'm a cop. And I like that they didn't go in some typical cliche ways. Sometimes in these films is, oh, well, Andy Garcia is going he's going to somehow get framed, or they're going to say he's the bad guy, or he's going to lose his job, and they don't go into those cliche routes, which I appreciate. I would say the only thing I was the least interested in was the Andy Garcia and Nancy Travis stuff. I just didn't feel like they had much chemistry with each other, and that it never seemed as if they ever liked each other. Even when he confronts her, this is like after Richard Gere's put into Garcia's head that he's messing with his wife when that's not the case. But Garcia believes it and has a conversation with his wife, even slaps her in a restaurant, and later on they're talking in their apartment, and then they're fighting and it leads to sex, and it's like I don't buy it. I'm like, well, this is a strange turn of events. I didn't buy it. I didn't buy, like, why would Nancy Travis, you just got slapped by this guy and then he says that you just said you've been messing around behind his back when you weren't, but then now you're having sex with him. I didn't buy it. I don't know. The whole subplot between him and Nancy Travis, it was the least interesting thing. The most interesting thing was the investigation when it was him and Laurie Metcalf talking with other fellow cops, talking with people, a bus that gets messed up by a SWAT team coming in. You have a little bit of a shootout. The investigation part I thought was more interesting part of the flick. And it's one of those movies that it's hard to review because it's not like there's 10 lines of dialogue that stuck out in my head, or, oh, there's these great action scenes I can describe to you. And I'm not usually the type of guy that goes in depth into the psychology of a film because I'm not a scholar. I just watch films for entertainment value. But so I know usually I'm going very in depth on films, but that's why I don't review a lot of drama, suspense movies because how many ways can you say, hey, this guy gives a good performance? Other people use clips, but then, hell, the other day my friend got in trouble for copyright and he had no footage. So, unless you're a big popular YouTube guy, you get fucked. All I can say is, if you've never seen the film, It's, if you like cop movies, if you like suspense films of that nature, and you want to see really good performance by Richard Gere, plays a really, I would call him cold-blooded villain. Andy Garcia, I think he did fine. I would like to have seen maybe a little bit of emotion from his character at the finale. It just seemed he was a bit too cold. Maybe that was the point. Maybe, again, maybe that was the point of the scene. But overall, I think Andy Garcia did fine. Laurie Metcalf, she did a good job. The score had this, again, creepy, especially the beginning and ending, like I said, a horror film vibe to it. And definitely the primary reason is Richard Gere, really good villain. I mean, he's the type of guy who gets someone killed on purpose to cover his own ass, and then when they're not dead, but they can't do anything, he'll just choke them and like talk to them while he chokes them, but not in a mustache twirling way, but more of a, hey, just go down, go down. But I didn't find him one-dimensional either. He wasn't just a one-dimensional psycho. You could tell that there's a bit more to him. That seemed like he really did love his kids. Just made the bad guy a little bit more interesting when it could have been very typical. I guess it's one of those films that the villain is more interesting than the hero. But I guess that's why they had the whole thing with. There is one. Well, there's one. I do still like Andy Garcia. I think he's a good actor. And there is one scene that sticks out that's really interesting. It's when he's getting drunk, and Garcia thinks he sees Richard Gere, and in this daydream shoots Richard Gere, and Richard Gere gets shot, but he keeps on coming, and Andy Garcia still keeps shooting him, even though Gere has this whole weird daydream that he has. Thought that was a nice little scene. But yeah, some capable acting, pretty decent. I have nothing wrong to say about the directing. What, the film wasn't too boring to me. It kept me interested to see what would happen next. And really, the only drawback for me was the little love story between Andy Garcia and Nancy Travis. Just wasn't the most interesting to me. And again, it just felt weird how they went into their sex scene. I didn't quite buy it. But other than that, I think, again, if you like cop films, suspense films, I I think it's worth it. It's worth giving it a look. So thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video. Later.